Hey, this is Matthew Stensland Boss with Forging Your Legend, where we help people turn their toughest battles into their greatest legends. Today, I want to talk to you about the importance of your environment and your ability to act on your environment instead of letting your environment act on you. So, first of all, I'm going to clarify what I mean by environment. So, by environment, I'm talking about anything around you that impacts your life. So, your house, the city you live in, the people you live with, the people you work with, the job that you do, the items that you have in your possession that you see every day, the inputs that you give yourself, like with social media, TV, whatever. Your environment has a major impact on your ability or inability to transform or to heal. And this is because your environment impacts the way you think without you even knowing it. A lot of this is unconscious. If you go to a certain place where you have a history, you might find yourself feeling the way you used to feel in that area. So if it's a bad experience that you had over a lot of time, you're probably going to go back and have some anxiety or some even just tightness in your body, resistance. But if you go someplace that you always felt loved and safe, maybe you go down to an old friend's house, you're going to feel warm just walking in the door. Your environment acts on you that way. And most people, they let that happen unconsciously. So, if somebody says something mean to you, that might ruin your whole day. But it doesn't have to. Obviously, we're human, we have emotions, we have responses to things that can be fairly natural, but all this often happens unconsciously, and often people just let that happen because they're not aware enough to stop it. So what we want to do is teach ourselves to generate what we want to feel instead of being reactive. There's a quote that's attributed to Viktor Frankl, I believe, and it's, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Now, Viktor Frankl survived a concentration camp by essentially deciding that nobody could dictate how he was going to respond to things. And so what I want to encourage you to think about in this video today is, how can you generate instead of react? How can you be conscious instead of unconscious with your environment? So, as we talked about, your environment can either have a positive impact, a negative impact, or neutral, I suppose. But in the case where your impact is more negative, or the environment is doing something that's not really helpful to you, we want to talk about what we can do about that. So the first thing is simply, if you're able, change your environment. Change the people, change the job, change your city, change the rooms in your house, rearrange the furniture even. Do what you can. Even little things can be helpful. Now, if you can't change something major, you can change your response to it. And some people will say, it's impossible to change my response to this because fill in the blank. And I'm telling you, if Viktor Frankl could choose his mindset in Auschwitz, then we can choose our mindset with whatever challenges we're facing. Doesn't mean it's going to be 100%, doesn't mean we're going to do it perfectly, but even if we can do it 1% better, that principle of Kaizen, 1% better each day adds up to a lot over time. So you need to be aware of what you can change, what you can't change, and then act accordingly. So if you can change it, do what you can. If you can't change it, you got to let it go, because you'll drive yourself insane if you try to focus your energy on what you can't control. And it can be tough to know the difference, as the Serenity Prayer indicates, but over time, you'll figure that out. You put more of your attention on what you can control and less on what you can't. But the best recommendations I can make for how to manage your state when you can't necessarily change the factors that are maybe more negative for you. Number one, brain retraining. Brain retraining is the best way to teach your brain to act in a way that's beneficial for you, that's working with you instead of working against you. For those of you who don't know this, some of you, this will be review, but your older brain structures, your midbrain and your hindbrain, are a little bit more wired toward just impulse, emotion, survival, basic needs, whereas your higher brain, your newer brain, your prefrontal cortex, etc., that's the part of your brain that's more rational and able to think through things. And it's awesome when we can solve a problem by simply saying, oh, okay, this is what I'm choosing, and that's all there is to it, and you change forever. But that doesn't always work, because when you've got emotions involved, when you've got survival reflexes involved, you sometimes need something more involved. And that's where brain retraining can really help, if you do it diligently and correctly. And in its simplest sense, brain retraining basically just refers to using the brain's inherent neuroplastic capacity, its ability to change itself for good or ill according to the inputs we give it, and using that to make beneficial changes. And the most bare bones way of saying that is we stop the old pathways that aren't helpful and we replace them with more helpful, beneficial pathways. And brain retraining is something that I help people with quite a lot. So if you need help with that, reach out. Part of how I teach brain retraining is I teach people to bubble, at least to an extent and in most circumstances, because most people need to feel like they have control over something. You need to control the variables you can control. So that's what bubbling is about. You put yourself in a bubble in a positive way and basically block out anything that's not helpful for you. Not to the point of being stupid, just, it's like if you've got, let's say, 2 hours free in a day, you can spend those hours scrolling on social media, or you can spend those hours listening to audiobooks that are really positive for you, or you can spend them in nature meditating or doing brain retraining or whatever. When I was recovering from 15 plus years of severe chronic illness that left me bedbound for years, I went hardcore on bubbling. I had a lot of time on my hands because I was so sick. I quit social media, quit TV. I blocked out any people who weren't helpful to my recovery. I refused to talk about anything that wasn't helpful to me, except when absolutely necessary. I listened to a lot of audiobooks. I spent a lot of time journaling. I spent a lot of time in nature as I was able. And doing that can be really, really, really helpful to keep your state in a positive place. Now, for those of you who, have families to take care of or have a full-time job, it's not always necessarily simple to always have, the inputs that you want. But even if you can do this 1% better, be 1% more aware of your thoughts, you're going to have progress over time. And that's where brain retraining can help, because it's not all black and white. It's not all, well, either I've got the time and the space to do what I need to do, or I'm screwed and there's nothing I can do. That's victim thinking, and it's not helpful. You absolutely can do something in between. And that's where, again, focus on the things you can control and let go of the things you can't. The main things here: be aware of your thoughts. Make sure you're choosing them consciously. Get a brain retraining practice going so that you can direct your mind in the way that you want it to go. Bubble as much as possible. Just remember, you can choose how you want to respond to things. You can choose how you want to be in your environment. And with that, know that you have the power to succeed in whatever challenge you're facing. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If it was, if you liked it, give it a like, give it a share, give it a follow, give it a subscribe, whatever the case may be. And feel free to reach out if you need help. Thanks so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful day.